Here we have an original vintage 1960s Rickenbacker, a 345S or 1998 UK export model. This beautiful guitar is perfect to introduce the story of the celebrated Rickenbacker Rose Morris export models from the 1960s. It's a strange tale that bounces back and forth across the Atlantic, a fascinating chunk of guitar history. Please subscribe to Bob Stone Review, the guitar channel always based on documented first-hand information and serious original content. The channel with cherry sunburst frame. Or, in this case, I rather should say Fairglow frame. In fact, Fairglow is the creative name used by Rickenbacker for their eye-catching red sunburst finish. Let's start from the beginning. In the mid-1950s, a man proudly shows a visiting card that reads Father of the Electric Guitar. His name is Adolf Rickenbacker, spelled with CH rather than CK. Adolf was born in Basel in 1892. After he lost his parents, immigrated as a child from Switzerland to America. In 1925, he founded, in Los Angeles, the Rickenbacker Manufacturing Company. He started to focus on musical instruments when he teamed up with George Beauchamp, pioneer designer of electric guitars. In 1931, Rickenbacker and Beauchamp gave birth to the Electro A25. This lap steel guitar became known by the nickname of Frying Pan, for its funny small round shape. It's the first electric solid body ever produced, and it's regarded as a milestone in guitar history. Their company settled with the brand name of Rickenbacker, finally spelled with a K. Interestingly, Rickenbacker produced electric guitars with bolt-on necks and string-through body loading at least 15 years prior to Leo Fender's Esquire design. In 1953, Adolf Rickenbacker sold his company to Francis C. Hall, a businessman associated to Fender Electric Instrument Company. The longtime Rickenbacker factory manager, Paul Barth, was confirmed in his role to guarantee continuity of the brand's history under the new ownership. Francis Hall wanted to shift the core business from lap steels to Spanish electrics. In fact, later he had to leave the Fender company for obvious conflict of interest. Hall needed an in-house designer to bring a breath of renewal to his company. Paul Barth knew the right man, Roger Russ Maisel, an expert German master luthier who had recently moved from California after a short period of work at Gibson. With his expertise, Russ Maisel shaped the unmistakable brand identity of Rickenbacker. His innovative designs gave Rickenbacker instruments a timeless appeal, still setting them in a class of their own. Between 1957 and 1958, Roger Russ Maisel designed the glorious 4000 bass and a new line of semi-acoustic guitars. It would be named the Capri Series, after Francis Hall's cat. All Capri Series instruments had model numbers in the 300 range. The first model received the 325 reference number. 3 indicates a semi-hollow body, 2 indicates a short 21-inch scale with 3 pickups configuration, and 5 indicates that it was fitted with vibrato tailpiece. The first 325 production model ever built had serial number V81, where V stood for vibrato. It had a solid top with natural finish. For a unique turn of events, this guitar was destined to change the future of Rickenbacker forever. The V81 325 was shipped to Framus in Germany in 1958. 2 years later, a young British musician was gigging in Germany for the first time outside of the UK and found the V81 325 for sale at the Steinway store in Hamburg. The young musician was John Lennon, and this 325 became his stage guitar with his band, the Beatles. In May 1961, the full-scale models of the Capri line underwent a restyling. Roger Rasmaze introduced a larger and thinner body and two adjustable truss rods. These 300 series guitars became Rickenbacker's most representative models and his biggest sellers. Numbers 363 through 375 designated the Deluxe series, with large triangular position markers, double bound body, bound neck, and stereo output. Numbers 330 through 345 designated the Standard series, with dot markers and unbound body and neck. The full-scale Standard series was composed as follows: 330, 2 pickups, 335, 2 pickups with vibrato, 340, 3 pickups, 345, 3 pickups with vibrato. Before the Capri guitar line gained popularity, in 1962, Rickenbacker moved to a bigger factory building in Santana, California. Roger Rasmaze left the company for personality clash with a manager. He joined Fender, where he would develop more guitar designs. The 325 became John Lennon's trademark guitar. By October 1963, George Harrison also acquired a Rickenbacker guitar in the USA, a 425 model. The Beatles now appeared with 2 Rickenbackers, attracting even more attention on the brand. As a first result, the 325 model was revamped and revived. Design updates included a longer and thinner body in Fairglow finish, a white pickguard with split-level design, a new vibrato tailpiece branded Accent by Paul, and Kurt's Cash, or simply KK black knobs, same as those on the Fender Mustang. Most notably, while all full-scale Capri models featured the Rickenbacker trademark cat's eye or slash sound hole, the 325 was given a more traditional-looking F-hole. Rose Morris and Company Limited was a leading UK distributor still operating in London. On the 30th of December 1963, Rose Morris signed an exclusive agreement with Francis Hall to distribute Rickenbacker instruments throughout the UK. Meanwhile, on the 9th of February 1964, at 8 o'clock in the evening, 73 million Americans gathered around their TV sets to see the Beatles at the Ed Sullivan Show, their first live performance in the States. This event came to be regarded as the day the 1960s truly began in the USA, a cultural watershed that launched the beat explosion in America. In a few weeks, the world went mad with Beatlemania, and a whole wave of British invasion bands was just around the corner. Following the distribution agreement, Rose Morris commissioned 5 models to form their exclusive Rickenbacker UK line. These export instruments were considered special orders, so they were identified by an S added to the model number. In addition, Rose Morris named the 5 models with their own reference catalogue codes. They used the numbers from 1995 to 1999, not to be confused with years of manufacture. These 5 models, of course, included a production version of the guitars used by John Lennon and George Harrison. The remaining 3 models were the 4001 bass and 2 full-scale Capri semi-acoustics, the 1997 or 335S with 2 pickups, and 1998 or 345S with 3 pickups. The choice was limited to the standard series with dot markers and unbound body and neck. Importing the models with deluxe appointments would have turned out too costly for the UK market. However, Rose Morris requested for their line of models some exclusive specifications, taking inspiration from the 325 Capri. The most important request from Rose Morris was that all semi-acoustic models should feature the more traditional F-shaped sound hole as used on the 325. Maybe the characterizing cat's eye sound hole featured on other Capri models was considered unorthodox or futuristic for the old continent. Also, all UK models would be fitted with vibrato unit, wet plastic parts and black KK knobs, in place of the silver insert knobs on the US models. Furthermore, Rose Morris requested to indicate Made in USA on the truss rod cover to make the country of origin clear to their customers. This became a standard feature on all Rickenbacker production from this point onwards. Initially, Fireglow was the only finish option available in the UK. A few instruments in different color options were offered later on. When back from the USA, George Harrison brought along a 360 12-string guitar, which raised great interest from British musicians. Rose Morris promptly requested to integrate their import line with a similar 12-string model, which received catalogue reference number 1993. The 1993 had 2 pickups and was the only guitar of the series with a bound body and a regular stop tailpiece. The number 1994 was reserved to a 12-string 3 pickups model that never saw the light. The first 300 instruments arrived to British music stores in April 1964 and sold out within days. The full-scale Capri 1997 and 1998 became the best-selling export models. This wonderful vintage Rickenbacker Rose Morris 1998 model is the export equivalent of the 345. For recording its voice, I'm using a pair of brand new T-Bone studio microphones. T-Bone microphones have great quality and yet won't break your bank account. The SCT-2000 is the flagship of the T-Bone large diaphragm line. It has tube circuit and very warm sound. It has switchable polar pattern for super versatility. Its companion, the T-Bone RB770, is an active ribbon microphone, ideal for close electric guitar amp cab recording. More details in one of the next episodes. Please note, by these microphones or any other item through the Thomann affiliate link in the description, you will support Bob Stone Review at no additional cost. My son Davide, under my advice, recently acquired this 1998 from my musician friend Gianni Giannotti, who had owned it for decades. It seems that it used to belong to some obscure British band who had toured in Italy in the late 1960s. From 1961 to 1986, the Rickenbacker serial numbers consist in two letters on the jack plates. The first letter indicates the year, starting with A in 1961. The second letter indicates the month. In our case, GJ points to October 1967. This guitar is all original and presents all the typical features of the Rose Morris Export Capri line. First of all, it sports the F-hole, the main distinctive feature that sets apart the Rose Morris Rickenbacker Export line from the regular US distributed full-scale Capri models. The circuit still presents Virgin Soldier Giants, with original Mallory blue molded tone caps. Pots are dated June 1967. Through the control cavity, the body shows penciled signatures and initial of the workers, and a handwritten model indication 345 EXP. This type of vibrato tailpiece was introduced in 1960. Models until 1963 were labeled Accent by Paul. The tailpiece lies on a sloped body ramp, allowing a correct break angle of the strings over the bridge. The body ramp and the split-level design pickguard create a pleasant three-dimensional feel. Body and neck are made of subtly figured maple with finished rosewood fretboard. The bar's finish with translucent cherry red color was introduced in 1959 with the name Fire Glow, later simply spelled without a W. The neck has a central dark walnut strip laminated with contrasting maple sides for optimal strength. The headstock also has additional walnut sides to create a 5-piece design with an upmarket appeal. It mounts Cluson double-brand tuners. The three pickups are nicknamed Easy Gas, Toaster Top. They were originally used from 1957 to 1970. With the three pickup circuit, the neck and middle pickups are permanently wired together. When the three-way switch is in up position, you get the neck and the middle pickups in parallel. The switch down gives the bridge pickup alone. The switch in middle position gives a bigger sound with all three pickups in parallel. The small blend or compensator knob is an additional volume control for the neck and middle pickups. Counterintuitively, it goes from full volume when rolled all the way back to about half volume when fully open. Some people, for easier operation and wider tonal range, wire the small blend knob to turn it into a regular volume knob for the middle pickup. In 1964, one of the first customers of the 1998 model was a young talented guitar player named Pete Townshend. His band, The Who, quickly became the cutting edge of the London mod scene. Townshend was playing like no one had before. The band's explosive live concerts were a great showcase for the Rickenbacker Rose Morris Capri models, which also became the first guitars in rock history to be intentionally smashed on stage. Pete Townshend purposely destroyed his Rickenbackers, yet accident happened as well. During a Christmas show in 1964, John Lennon accidentally damaged one of his 325s. While the guitar was being repaired, Rose Morris promptly gave Lennon a replacement, their import version of the 325, the 1996 in Fire Glow finish. Lennon's accident revealed to be providential for the British distributor. The Beatles had so far only used American Rickenbackers. Now Rose Morris felt justified in using the Beatles and Lennon as testimonials in advertising their own import models, which now qualified to the nickname of Beatlebackers. Rickenbacker's fame and reputation skyrocketed. Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones used a 1993 12-string. Hilton Valentine of the Animals used a 1997 model, and many other British invasion musicians brandished Rose Morris Rickenbackers. Their unique sound became increasingly popular overseas, further igniting the demand on the domestic US market. Some of the most influential American bands of the 1960s now sported a Rickenbacker guitar or bass. These included Roger McGuinn of the Byrds, who favored a 12-string 370, John Fogerty of Creedence Clearwater Revival, who played a 325, John Kay of the Steppenwolf, playing a 381, and many others. Beatlemania and the Beat Explosion or British Invasion phenomena got guitar makers struggling to keep up with a sudden, unprecedented increase of demand. Most brands, including Fender, Gretsch, Danelectro, Vox, and Gibson, solved the problem by selling their companies to big corporations. Rickenbacker proudly chose to go on and rely on their own production capacity. The honeymoon between the American brand and their British distributor was doomed. The Rickenbacker factory soon strived to fulfill orders from Rose Morris, which absorbed about 40% of the entire production. Wait times for export models grew longer, reaching unreasonable delay times as soon as by mid-1965. By 1966, it was clear that Rickenbacker was failing to fill the orders in due time. Francis Hall was just unable to supply the quantities the UK market demanded. In 1967, Rose Morris even tried to expand the Rickenbacker line with two more models, the 3261 base and the 3262 12-string convertible. These models basically failed to reach Britain. Rose Morris, as an extreme measure, even allocated those same model codes to low-grade Rickenbacker copies made in Italy or Japan, marketed under the Shaftesbury brand. The Rickenbacker and Rose Morris partnership came to a breaking point, officially ending in 1969. The original Rose Morris export models were never supplied in large quantities. They are cherished as icons and are particularly sought after. Even the reissue models are quite rare. In 1987, Rickenbacker released a limited edition of the Pete Townshend signature reissue 1998 model without vibrato tailpiece. More limited reissue editions were released on and off until 2001. This 1998 is a defining model of Rickenbacker's glory years, and valuable testimony of a pivotal moment in rock history. If you are interested to deepen this topic, I suggest the books Out of the Frying Pan into the Fire Glow by Martin Kelly and Beatles Gear by Andy Babiuk. There's also a French documentary dedicated to Roger Ras Maisel, produced by Luc Glenn and Gaspard Glarny. Keep an eye, please feel free to help the BTR channel with donations. There's a PayPal link in the description. Subscribe now and click the bell to keep posted. Keep your comments and feedbacks coming. Don't forget to check out the Bob Stone Review Facebook group and Instagram profile.